Welcome to the garage door. And we've got Jim Richey of the Pozers with us tonight. Jim, how's it going?
Great. Glad to be here. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing good. We're glad to have you here.
Excited to have you here, Jim. Seems to me now that we've been playing your music on our show, The Garage Door. Seems to me that you're another power pop aficionado.
Well, we definitely subscribe to any label that classifies whatever melodic rock and roll is. We love power pop. We love indie pop. Anything with melody.
Yes. And Jim, sorry, Craig, to get off tangent, but I appreciate all kinds of music, but a lot of times if it's just straight screaming, I need a little bit of melody in there somewhere,
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, Jim, tell us about the Pozers. You guys are out of Texas, is that correct?
Yes, we're basically out of essentially Tyler, Texas, which is about 80 miles east of Dallas. So a lot of times we've lived in Dallas over the years here and there. So we kind of claim Dallas as our hometown for the international audience because most people don't know where Tyler is. So say Dallas. But we came up in Texas, which is historically known as kind of ZZ Top, Stevie Ray Vaughan land. That's right. What state is known for usually. So we came up with influences from across the sea, so to speak. The Beatles, even though the Beatles broke up before I was born, they were my favorite band growing up. But also coming up in the late 70s and the 80s, I was influenced by a lot of bands that were, ranging anywhere from just classic rock to some melodic punk to alternative, just this hodgepodge of genres. So coming from Texas, that's not usually the first thing you think of when you think of music. That's what I've always been into.
Right. And Jim, what I do hear though in a lot of your cuts, such as Cry. I'm drawing a blank here. The Crybaby.
Cindy C. That's the one we were talking about.
Yeah, Cindy C. I mean, there's some swing in there too, though. Like good rock and roll has a little bit of that pulse in it. So I was noticing that.
Absolutely, and I think that kind of gets back to our the Beatle idea. One of my favorite albums is the White Album, and you can kind of go song to song, and it doesn't really fit in a real specific linear genre like a lot of bands do. You might get a Honey Pie, and then right after that a Helter Skelter, and just a real diverse, I guess, diverse offerings of genres of songs within the same band. And not that we consciously set out to do that, but that's just what we enjoy. And so we tend to write songs that may span, we might write a more heavy song and then maybe a song with a different kind of a swing beat, like you mentioned, and then across the spectrum, we really, just write kind of what we feel. And I think the eclectic nature of it can sometimes be a double-edged sword, because if somebody really locks into something you like one facet of what you're doing, and you don't do enough of that for them, you may, so it's definitely a give and take there.
For me, listening to your stuff. Oh, I was going to say, listening to your songs, just randomly picking songs, they all bring a feeling, a memory up to me. Like when I listen to it, it takes me to someplace. So I know that for me, that's important when I listen to stuff, that I get a feeling and a sense of it. So it seems like every one of your songs will make me think of something that's happened in my life, and that's kind of cool to me. I like that. It makes me want to listen to more of what you guys have.
Right. That's kind of the way we write songs. I mean, it's every song. Very few of our songs were just non-generic, non-specific songs. There's always some kind of story attached to it, or an emotion that attaches to it, and that authenticity, I think, that we feel as songwriters to the songs. Hopefully that does translate into the listener. When they listen to it, they either either have something similar that we were feeling, or really, have something completely different that they identify with. You mentioned Cindy C a while ago. That was off our Embrace Your Addiction album, and that was one that Kenny Swan, our lead guitar player, actually wrote that one, and he had obviously being enamored with Cindy Crawford at the time or whatever. That was what was coming out. But what we really liked most about the song was just the when we got it recorded, the vibe, that really kind of catchy, kind of dirty garagey came out of it. And that's something that's another conversation as well, because there's these different parts along the way. You kind of get the inspiration, you write the song, then you record the song, and sometimes when you record it, you get it right, and sometimes you don't, and there's not really a reason why. Sometimes sonically it just comes together, and sometimes you miss, even though you're using maybe the same instruments, the same process, but you sometimes catching lightning in a bottle, and you can't explain why it happens.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, and the emotion is authentic. It's authentic emotion that's triggered. So that's what Craig and I celebrate, is authentic rock and roll, authentic music. It's coming from your soul. You're not doing the pure pop stuff.
That's our favorite word on this show, is authenticity. So
yes,
that's. I think that sometimes in the power pop community, which is a very interesting community, because nobody can quite really agree what that genre means.
They know it when they hear it. That's what I know.
Yes.
I think that depending what, I think that sometimes now, and this may get me a little bit of trouble, but for me and my age, the way I grew up, to me, when I think of power pop, I tend to go right to Cheap Trick. That's kind of my connection there with them. But there are a lot of bands that I've learned since then that a lot of the power pop experts will talk about, that to me at the time when I was growing up, I associated them with new waves. Right. But a lot of people would say, well, that's what we are calling power pop. And I'm saying, well, it could be, but in my mind growing up, that wasn't what I associated with it. And then years later with Teenage Fan Clubs and some of the bands in the 90s coming up, it was a little bit different then as well. So power pop in a lot of ways has become like just as a genre, almost like rock and roll is.
Right.
You have to put a decade on it, like, well, that's 70s power pop, or that's power pop, like we did with 50s rock or late 60s rock, things like that.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think you put that much better than even I could, Craig could. I think that's a perfect way to put it. But in the Pozers, first of all, Jim, tell us who all is in the band, if you don't mind.
Well, the Pozers, it's it's kind of an interesting story. I put the band together way back in 1994, kind of as a group to focus on my songwriting, originals, releasing material, things like that. So we've had a ton of people come and go over the years as far as the band, people who have played in the recording parts, the touring parts, things like that. But right now, if you see us live, more than likely, you're going to see me, Jeff Hamm on guitar, Stacy Shue on bass, Kirk Harper on the drums. And that's kind of our core group to play live when we play live. In the studio, oftentimes I'll record most of the instruments myself. It's just easier to get together because I'm writing the songs. It's easier I play drums, I play guitar, I play keyboards, and I sing.
That's amazing in itself right there.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny, over the years, I've been doing that for most of my life. It's just more efficient to do it that way, because as we get older, it takes a lot of time for a band to get tight.
Yes.
I mean, you put the time in, and it doesn't take near as long for me to get tight with myself because I know what I'm doing on the instrument, so I can kind of just do it quickly. So usually live in the studio, I'll kind of be the core, I guess, player, but then I will bring in other people to play on well. Jeff Hamm, who plays live with us, he'll come in and usually play guitar and play and sing back up and occasionally here and there. Kenny Swan, who's kind of my songwriting partner, we've written together for most of our live. He'll come in and play lead guitar. He's a fantastic lead guitar player, probably the best lead guitarist I've ever played with. But he just doesn't enjoy playing live. So if we do anything, we'll play it. It'll be in the studio or whatever, but he won't be with us live. So that's kind of the group right now. Now, I mentioned Stacy Shue and Kirk Harper. Kirk Harper actually had some fame about 20 years ago. He was the lead singer in a band called Lynch Mob, which was George Lynch. And they released an album with Kirk as the vocalist. So Kirk's a multi-instrumentalist himself. So when he's playing drums with the Pozers, he has his own group that he plays in fronts as well. Stacy Shue is a phenomenal bass player, so he plays with different groups too. So it's kind of like everybody's playing with everybody, and then we come together,
Are you guys out playing anywhere?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so I'm gonna ask.
Are you guys out touring anywhere, playing any places?
We usually play. We'll play strategic gigs. We haven't packed up and toured and just hit the road in a long time. But usually, when David Bash does an international pop overthrow somewhere in the vicinity, he'll reach out to us and we'll put something together for that. If we have a new album, we'll usually do a release party at a place in Dallas or Austin, and we'll play that. But we really don't play regularly. It's usually we get something together for a gig that's of some. The next gig we've got, actually, David Bash is doing an international pop overthrow in Arlington, which is, y'all probably know that's between Dallas and Fort Worth. He's doing September, and he asked us to play that. So we're going to play Friday night, September 16th. So that's our next gig. And then we're in the studio right now working on a follow-up album to Crybaby Bridge, and that'll probably be finished in early 2023. So we'll do a release party for that somewhere. And then one of the bucket lists for me is to go over and do an IPO in Liverpool at the Cavern. David does about once a year, and he's asked us a few times to go over there, but just trying to get schedules together and get enough people to do it's kind of difficult, but that's definitely something I hope to do someday.
Well, Jim, Craig, and I are already volunteered to carry your amps, anything you need. We're both drummers, so we'll make good roadies. We know how to carry stuff. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Jim, it seems like that you're talking about basically the McCartney approach, like for his debut solo LP. Everything's your own. When you record, what's the process? I mean, what do you lay down first? Does it just depend on the song?
Well, Paul McCartney probably growing up was my single greatest influence. He and it was odd being a Beatle fan in the 80s because they're a couple of decades before you, and your friends really aren't into them. So it was kind of like me in my room with my records, just sort of learn it, listen to it one-on-one. But I started out playing drums when I was 3. My parents gave me a drum set when I was very young, and I sort of grew up playing drums. When I was 12, I kind of transitioned into guitar, played guitar, took guitar lessons. So I had a little bit of theory background, but mainly ear. And then I started playing piano when I was 14 and was writing songs around that time, and then learned bass a little bit later. And of course, people say, well, if you play guitar, you play bass, but they are two separate instruments, knowing how to incorporate the melody, especially something like McCartney does. So that was kind of my background growing up. And then it wasn't until I got a 4-track that I started, and I was by myself. I was at home, without a band around me. I started learning how to layer tracks, how to record things in what order. So my process kind of over the years became trial and error, but now that I use Pro Tools and tracks really aren't, I guess a worry, because in the 4-track days you had to do very specific things because you would really run out of tracks quickly. But with Pro Tools, we have about 30 tracks, not including MIDI and things like that. So what I usually do when I'm recording a song is I'll lay a click track down, make sure I stay, in time. Then I usually lay a scratch instrument down, whatever it is. If it's a piano song, that'll be the scratch. If it's guitar. And then I usually lay a scratch vocal down. And then after that, I go in and lay drums down to my scratch vocal and scratch guitar. And once I get the drum track the way I like it, I go back in and start laying the meat and potatoes of the song, usually guitar, a couple of guitars, whether they're acoustic or electric, whatever the song makeup is. Then I'll usually lay bass. And so before I start doing vocals, I've got a drum, a bass, and then usually a couple of guitar tracks. Then I start doing my vocals, and then I usually later come in and overdub keyboards or strings or whatever other arrangements that need to be placed. That's usually last. Besides backup vocals, usually backup vocals and keyboard overdubs are the last things I do before we mix it down.
Awesome. Jim, if I can just take a second. Yeah, you and I are exactly the same. I'm going to show you over here. There's kind of the Beatle wall and the stereo. I've got all kinds of promo stuff. Over there is kind of some of the Beatles memorabilia I've accumulated through the years.
Very cool.
Behind me is, from that row down is all Beatles, or Beatle related. So yes, I made up with the two. What'd you think of McCartney too? Did you? I liked it. I really liked it.
I think I liked it. I liked it more later as an adult, probably, than I did when I was younger. I think some of it was a little bit too keyboardy for me.
Yes, me too. Exactly right, Jim. Perfect. When it came out, I was like, yeah, okay, it's okay. But now I've grown to appreciate it more. It's still not one of my most listened to McCartney LPs, but now McCartney 3. What'd you think of McCartney 3? I dug it.
I think it's a great album. I think that what I respect so much about Paul is he's just continuing to contribute, continuing to write. Now, I mean, he gets beat up a lot in the press for, well, where's Hey Jude, or where's the next Let It Be, things like that. But I mean, I think that he just lets that sort of flow off his skin, if you will, and he just continues to write what he feels, and he shares it with the world, and we can like it or not like it, but I think it's great. I'm glad he's still doing it. I think he's probably talented people who's ever played music.
Yeah, I agree, and it is like, I think you hit the nail on the head. It is contributing to the future. I mean, it's building. He's keeping on going. I mean, he's brought me a lot of hope and cured a lot of anxiety with me. I mean, if I'm upset, listen to Paul. Not that I don't the other Beatles either, but that's it's my therapy at times. So, and by the way, I see a Hofner back there behind you?
Yes, I've got a Hofner. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my phone.
Looks like a Rocky. Is that a Rocky replica back there? George's Rocky?
Yes, that's the a Rocky, actually. The guy I was talking about, Kenny Swan, lead guitar player for the Pozers. He actually has his own guitar company, Swan Guitars, so he makes guitars as well. And that was good for me that he had, custom made, down to the exact little every little design or saying George did. It looks phenomenal. So that's awesome. And then the Hofner guitar. I've got another Hofner bass. It's a white Hofner bass. I've got my Rick bass. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of in the corner behind me where I'm important.
Is that a 2001?
Yeah, and that's a 2003.
Okay. And is it? I can't really see it, Jim. Is it the natural maple finish, or I?
It's the natural.
Okay.
It looks similar to what Paul played in Wings after he sanded it down. I guess the red one that he had from the Beatles.
I keep hoping he'll bring that out on tour, because I love that Rick sound. To me, it added so much. Venus and Mars, I just love that sound that's on that. Sorry, Craig.
Oh, no worries.
We're working ourselves up into Beatle geekiness. Can't help it.
Well, I would have told you that he liked the Beatles just from there's a song called The Only Girl, and that just sounds like a Beatles song to me.
Yes, that's a song that actually David Bash had included on the latest. He's got the internet. In fact, I've got it right here. This is the International Pop Overthrow Volume 23. This one has just been released. It's brand new. It's a 3-disc set with a bunch of artists contributing songs, and The Only Girl is actually on that CD.
That's a great song.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. So that's volume 3 of the International Pop Overthrow.
But, yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Cool. There's a plug, David.
Well, we'd love to get him on and talk. Jim, we'll have to get back together and bring David along with us. That would be great. I would love that.
David is much for our genre of music, and just really supporting music and bands and the IPO kind of going from city to city, keeping the music, I guess, in the press, so to speak. So he's done that, I guess, over 20 years now. So hats off to him.
Jim, is your record label 6th Floor? Is that a homage 7 floors down from the 13th floor elevators?
The 6th floor, I think, is just it was a nod to the 6th floor of the books depository.
Okay, gotcha.
From Dallas,
yeah.
And those guys have been very supportive of us as far as since we've been in the indie world, so to speak, and I can't say enough good things about them.
Cool.
Now, Jim, if somebody can you give us a little contact information? If one of our listeners wants to, find your album, actually want to purchase the CD, and is there some vinyl available?
At this point, we entertained vinyl for Crybaby Bridge, our last album, and we really didn't. It didn't materialize. I would like to have that someday. For people, I know there's a great audience for that. I mean, I love vinyl myself.
Oh yeah.
As far as our music and our CDs and MP3s or whatever, our music's available on all of the major platforms through Apple Music and of course whatever's out there, we're on it. Spotify, Pandora, what else? I can't think of all.
That's the big ones.
Yeah. I mean, and they're on some of the indies as well. And they can email us directly at thepozers@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. I think the big thing is trying to get people to spell our name correctly, or in this case, correctly, because it's Pozers. So I guess if you're searching with a POS, you might not see as much, but
right.
The Pozers at Gmail. Of course, we're on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook and Twitter, I think, are both The Pozers. Instagram, I think, is The Pozers Band. So we're real easy to find, and we can direct anybody to, the outlets to buy the music. The CDs themselves, it is harder to find people who are actually selling CDs, and I hate that because all of our music's on CD, so we hope to get it. But if they have trouble finding it, they can contact us directly, and we can make sure they get a copy.
Awesome.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, and Jim, I do want to stay in touch. We'll want your contact information because I would like to have an autograph. Purchase an autograph CD.
Well, we'll definitely send you one. Just let me know where to send it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. Because
thank you guys for doing what you do. This is great. Love your show, and very happy to be here. Anytime you want to chat, let me know.
Well, we're glad to have music like yours to be able to play to get out there.
Yes, because there's valid music out there. You don't hear it because the audience is so fragmented, and the radio's taken over by corporate pap. Jim, if you don't mind taking a little extra minute, we always have a game we like to play, either or,
sure.
Where we kind of pick a couple records, and we all say either or. But give me a second. I'm going to do a special McCartney edition. Hold on one second. We will judge you. And I just grab at random. Okay, here we go. You may not know these. Give Ireland Back to the Irish or Mary Had a Little Lamb.
I'm going to say Give Ireland Back to the Irish, but the Mary song is a lot better than I thought it was going to be before I heard it.
Yep.
You know, hearing it, you're just assuming he just redid the nursery rhyme, but he did a lot with it. But I do think Give Ireland Back to the Irish is better for me.
I kind of go with that, and I would say the exact same thing. Until I became real familiar, I had the 45, and I just never didn't listen to it. But yeah, I agree. Okay, we've got Jet or Letting Go.
Jet.
I got to say Jet.
I'm with you too. Love them both, but got to go with Jet. Now here's a double one. Okay, Girls' School or Mull of Kintyre.
Ooh.
I'm going to say Girls' School because I'm not a huge Mull of Kintyre fan. That song always shocks me about how many records it set in England. You know, it was like the biggest selling song for a while.
Yeah.
It just wasn't one of mine. I think it was too, I guess, I don't know. It just seemed a bit old fashioned, you know?
Yeah, but now Girls' School, Craig, if you've not heard it, it rocks. It's a great tune. It is a great tune. Okay, a couple more. Thank you for playing, Jim. I love just get together. I love getting together, Beatle fans. Okay. My Brave Face or Stranglehold.
I've got to say My Brave Face just because of the bass line. I love that bass line in the song. And that to me is the one that kind of brought McCartney back to sort of where he is now, touring stadiums and getting back on the road. I love that album, Flowers in the Dirt. It's a great album. One of my favorites.
Yeah, I listened quite a bit to that. Craig, are you familiar with My Brave Face?
Oh, yeah, I know all these.
Okay. Figure of Eight or Hope of Deliverance?
You know, I'm going to have to say Figure of Eight by a hair. I do love Hope and Deliverance a lot, but I think I like Figure of Eight just a little bit more. In fact, I think he opened with that song on his 1990 tour. That was the first time I saw McCartney. I saw him in Texas Stadium when it was still there, and he opened with it. It was a great opening.
Oh, I'll never forget that. Yeah, I got our tickets through the fan club. He had first toured, kind of late '89, and just a limit. He did L.A., Chicago, and New York. And the fan club, the McCartney fan club, you could buy tickets through it, you guys.
Yeah.
And they were great seats. I think they were like $25.
Oh wow!
And it was just a great show. Just a great show. Okay, couple more, and we'll let you go. I Don't Know off Egypt Station or Ever Present Past.
I think I like both of them, but I think Ever Present Past is probably by a hair for me.
See, I'll go with the other one.
It's great. I like Ever Present Past. I probably listen to it a little bit more. Okay, two more, and we'll be done. Press or So Bad.
So Bad.
Ooh, I love both of those songs, but I think So Bad is just a phenomenal song, and I love his bass playing, and love the way he, uses his falsetto and then brings it down into his real voice, just showing what a great natural singer he is.
Oh man, just younger, I don't think there's anybody that could match Paul for a rock voice. Maybe Lennon, but other than that, I don't think there's anybody that could have matched him. And now of course his voice isn't the same, but it's still amazing. He's still and what I like Jim now is he's writing, and I think you do this in some of your writing. You're writing to what your voice is now. You're writing to what you're feeling now, not trying to capture, how you felt when you were 20. It's authentic.
Absolutely. I mean, you kind of have to do that. Otherwise, I think from a lyrical writing perspective, at least me, when I'm writing lyrics, if it's not something that I'm connecting with or I'm believing with, some kind of an emotional or inspirational connection, I almost feel like I'm cheating or I'm selling it short. I'm just throwing words down. And I know that some writers do that. And I guess, we don't, as the audience, we don't know when they really mean it or when they don't. But for me, I know. So I try to not write lyrics unless I'm writing to say something.
Yes. And you can tell it in your music. You really can.
Thank you.
Well, Jim, thanks for hanging out with it. It's the Pozers, Pozers. Look him up on YouTube, Facebook. We hope to have you on again, Jim. So thank you very much for hanging out with us, man.
We appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you guys for asking, and I love your show. Thanks for what you're doing, and let me know if you ever want to chat again.
Absolutely. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Thanks.